Hello, this is Phil, user PhD21 from the Linux Mint forums. I'm going to do a quick review slash tutorial on using the Mp3splt program, Mp3splt-gtk, on my Linux Mint 18 KDE system. This is a program, a really nice program to split whole album music files in various different audio formats, MP3, FLAC, which a lot of people have been using to archive, to back up their music CDs. Although personally, I think it's better just to rip them. They call it ripping a CD into separate audio tracks, separate song tracks right from the beginning. But a lot of people didn't do that. So, and there are a couple really great programs in Linux to do this. One called FLAC-on, which is if you have cue sheets or TOC files, table of content files, which contain the starting and ending times of the songs, what they call split points. FLAC-on is super simple and easy to use. But so is Mp3splt. But what if you don't have the what they call cue sheets or table of content files? Or for some reason, if you split a whole album music file into song tracks, it doesn't come out properly. That's where the program like Mp3splt can be really handy. So let's get on with the tutorial. Okay, here is Mp3splt on my screen, right here. So you can just double click that. And my computer that I'm using right now is very old. It's an old, over 11-year-old computer, so bear with me if it takes a little bit of time for certain things to come up. For some reason it came up twice. Let's try that again. I'm using Simple Screen Recorder, an absolutely excellent program for recording your desktop. Okay, now here's Mp3splt-gtk. In order to get the newer versions of this, you have to use PPA installation method. Here are the instructions for that. It's also on the Linux Mint forums. But right here's how to install this program on Linux Mint 18 and on Linux Mint 17. Pretty simple to install PPA. Then you'll have the most current versions of the Mp3splt program. Okay. And here's the main screen for the Mp3splt program. Now, I have copied an album, a whole album file, and its cue sheet into a folder in my underneath my music folder called Whole Album Files, and you can see them right here. I have told the MP3 program when it processes the files to put it in an Mp3splt output folder, which I also created in the my music folder. Now I'm going to show you two different things, one with a cue sheet and one without. Um, okay, now all you have to do is click when MP3 Split comes up. You click this button over here. It's the Browse button. Then you browse, file browse, to wherever your whole album music files are. And in my case, as I just mentioned, they're underneath my music folder under whole album files. And you just pick the file. It could be MP3, FLAC, you can see down here, or OGG. In this case, it happens to be a FLAC file. FLAC is a very good format because it's a lossless format. So I'm going to, it's already highlighted, and I'm going to click Open. Okay. And as you can see, the album is in place. And at the bottom, in the lower left-hand corner, you can see where it says Q file is already processed. It recognized that there was a Q file there, and it's already processed. At this point, I could just hit split the current file. And right now, it's processing that. You can see it, processing file. And it's on, you know. And as you can see now, it's processing each song track. Now, because the Q file and TOC files contain a table of contents, you know, they have a starting point, ending point, and the duration of each song that's in an album. And as you can see, it's pretty fast. It's already, you know, it's processing, you know, it's already on 2 out of 17 songs. And it's showing you what it's doing. Now, MP3 Split does not alter the music, the larger whole album music file at all. It just splits it. Okay, now I paused the recording to let it, you know, to let MP3 continue splitting the whole album music file, and it did. It finished, and it was very quick. And it says finished, you know. Now, I could click View and split files, and it will bring up my file manager, my file browser, and show me the split files. But since I already have my file manager open, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to go to my MP3 Split folder and see if my tracks are in there. And there they are. Okay, now I'm going to delete all of them so I can show you how to use MP3 Split if you do not have a Q file or table of contents file. So I'm gonna okay, so now I've deleted everything in the output folder. I'm going to go over to my whole album folder, and now I'm going to delete the Q file. Okay. I'm going to exit MP3 Split, and I'm going to restart it. Now, let's say you don't have a Q file, but you do have the larger whole album music files. You can click on File. Well, first you browse. Obviously, you browse to your file, but it remembered the last one I was on. But you browse to your file. In this case, it's the Allman Brothers Band. It's a FLAC file. So I'm going to click File, and I'm going to try and locate a Q file. Now, in MP3, they call them split points, because every time a song track, from song 1 to song 2 changes, that's called a split. And if you know where that happens, then you can easily separate, a larger whole album file into different songs. So I'm going to select, because I don't have a Q file now, I'm going to select import split points from tracktype.org. So I click File and select import split points from tracktype.org. And I'm going to increase the size of this window a little bit. And I'm going to type in, the name of the album title that I'm looking for. Okay, in this case, it's the Allman Brothers Band. And I'm going to click Search. And it pops up every album that they've made. And that includes live concerts and stuff like that, like Unplugged in LA, and different theaters and stuff like that too. But, since I know that this one's called A Decade of Hits, 1969 through 1979, I'm going to scroll down till I hopefully will find something that matches that. And if I do, then I'll have a good cue sheet. Okay, and here's all the ones they found. Okay, and here is a match. Okay, so I highlight that, click Add Split Points. Boom. Okay, and now I can close that. I can click View Split Points, which basically means it just shows me all the tracks, all the song tracks, that this album has, as you can see. And it shows me, the length of the songs and all that. Okay. Now, there's other options here, but I'm not going to get into that yet. But at least I have a good, set of split points where I can now tell it to split the whole album into separate song tracks. So I'm going to click Close on that. But I want to save that because I didn't have a queue. I didn't have a queue file or split point file. So I'm going to click Export the split points. And I'm going to put that in my output folder, MP3 split, and I'm going to call it, I can rename it later, but I'm going to call it the Allman Brothers, let's see if I could, Brothers Band. I'm going to probably change that later, but anyway, .cue. You can see it says Q files here. I could select different formats to process, when importing Q files. But in this case, it's already got the Q files there. So, the Allman Brothers Band.q, and I'm going to save it. Now, I want to go in, I'm going to bring up my file manager, go to my MP3 split folder, and look, there's my Q file. I'm going to open that just to show you what it looks like in a text editor. In this case, I'm going to use LeafPad, which is a nice little text editor. And now you see what a Q file or a table of contents file is and it shows track 1, track 2, and it shows you how long the tracks are, so it'll be able to use this information to split that larger whole album file into separate songs, separate song tracks. And it even updated, the genre, music genre and stuff like that. Okay, so now I have a Q file, and then all I got to do is click split. And it's going to start processing, that large whole album file and separating it into separate song tracks, as you can see right down here. And it gives you a status. Okay, again, I paused recording the desktop to let it finish processing the 17 tracks. And it did, and it was very quick. And here you can see it's finished. It says file split. Now, like I said before, you could click view and split files to view it that way, and it pops right up and shows you the tracks. I could even queue it to a player. I could delete them all if I wanted to right there, but I just, why would I do that? Okay, so there they are. Now, I'm going to verify that with my file manager, though. And I go into my file manager and click on my MP3 split folder, which is where I chose to put the resulting files from running MP3 split program. And you can see they're all in there, including the Q file I just created, that I just saved. And you can obviously test the quality of it. And right now you're hearing okay, I'm just going to pause that now. Now I'm going to delete these all again, because what if you have the whole album music file, but you don't have a Q sheet, and if you went into file, import split points, which was basically importing a Q file from from tracktype.org, and it couldn't find it, then what do? How do you split this large whole album music file into separate songs? Well, that's where MP3 split comes in pretty handy. I'm going to close it again and bring it back up. Okay. Now, even though it remembered my last one, I'm going to show you that I can browse to it. It remembers my last setting, and my whole album files are underneath my music folder. Click that, select that. Okay. Now this time, though, because I can't find a Q file, let's for the sake of this tutorial, I can't find a Q file. and let's say I couldn't find it using, the file, import split points from tracktype.org. You can still create your own. You can still split the large whole album music file and create a custom Q sheet file by actually playing the album, the whole album. And I'm going to start that here. That's what this is for down here. Now, there's a manual on their website which you can use to help with this. But basically, what you're going to do is play the album, and when it finishes, a song, you're going to add a split point for each time that, one song changes to another song. That way, obviously, it knows how to split the album, the whole album file. And here are some basic instructions. You can left-click on a split point, and right-click erases it. You can move the position. You can change, So anyway, I'm going to show you real quick. So I'm going to tell it to start playing the album. Now, as you can see here, it's going to show you. I'm going to lower the volume a little bit on that. Pardon me. Oh, come on. Okay. Now, as you can see, while I put it on mute for a second. As you can see, it's playing the album, and it's producing a graph here. This is the album coming across here, and you can turn off and on what they call an amplitude wave thing here. That's what it looks like without that. And it's showing you the current time for the first, in this case, the first song, because I started from the very beginning. Now, one feature that's nice about MP3 Split is you could just tell it to automatically create split points based upon silence, because there's always a silence in studio recordings of albums between each song track, and it would just go through the whole file and find all the the silence and automatically create a list of split points, a cue sheet based upon silence between the songs. Obviously, that doesn't always work if there happens to be songs that have silence in them, or with certain live albums where they don't necessarily have a break between each song. Now, obviously, because a whole album is in this case 75 minutes long, so I'm only going to do the first split point between song 1 and song 2. But as you can see here, it's showing you how the progression of playing the first song in this album. And I have not used this program thoroughly, nor have I read the manual, so I'm not exactly sure what all the symbols mean yet. Now, when the song is finished, you can click the pause button and set your split point at that point. I mean, if you're very good at it, you could probably click the split point and then just let it continue. Okay, now you can tell that the song's about to finish. Okay, now there's the silence. So I'm going to add a split point. Boom. And it added that. Now if I click View, Split Point, it should show that. Now I'm not really sure why it's remembering the others. I guess I could... It seems to know the others already. I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, but I've just added a split point. Now I can hit play again. And now we're on song 2. Anyway, and obviously you would just listen to the album, and every time the song changes, you know, add a split point. Okay. Now, I'm assuming you could fast forward this using this slider up here. So you can quickly go through the album. But like I said, I have not used this program before. This is the first time I'm using it. So anyway, I'm going to click pause now. Actually, I'm going to stop it right now. Now, at this point, I've already got a split point, and I could just click, you know, assuming that you've gone through the whole album now, you could click File, you know, view your split points. You could save that file by exporting it, like I did before. But you could just click Split, and it will split the whole album file into the individual song tracks based upon you creating those manual split points. So that's a quick tutorial on using MP3 Split. I hope you find that useful.